In the meantime, so there was this interesting story, and I have a guest on to discuss it. It was a story out of Memphis, Tennessee, and it came to us from KWAM, which is normally a trusted source of mine. Todd Starnes is a part of KWAM, their news radio 1990 AM in Memphis, and they posted a tweet Monday that said the following. Just in, sources tell KWAM that a jetliner filled with illegals just took off from LaGuardia Airport in NYC bound for Memphis. Passengers on board are reporting deplorable conditions in the cabin. So I wanted to do a little more sleuthing to find out exactly what was going on and to get some questions answered about what the hell's happening here. I mean, who's responsible for this? I mean, typically, if I am to get on a flight, I have to show identification. If you're telling me that there's a flight filled with illegal aliens, I want to know how they got on the flight. Did they have documentation? Where did they come from? Where was their point of origin? Where did they go through? Who put them on the plane? All of these questions remain up in the air because we're getting no further information. KWAM has given us no additional information. But with that one tweet, several other news outlets picked up on the story and have followed up on the story by actually saying that certain lawmakers are responsible for this commercial airliner having the ability to transport illegal aliens into the state of Tennessee. As a matter of fact, from Tennessee Conservative News and Brandon Lewis, the headline, Rhinos allow commercial airline to transport illegal aliens to Tennessee. And right there's a graphic showing Senator Todd Gardenhire, Senator John Lundberg, Representative John Gillespie, Representative Dan Howell, and Senator Kerry Roberts, suggesting that these individuals were making it permissible for these types of flights, which we've not verified, by the way, to come into the state. To speak to this, we invited Senator Kerry Roberts, and he accepted our invitation to be on the show with us. Senator Kerry Roberts is a Republican member of the Tennessee Senate for the 23rd District, which includes portions of Robertson, Dixon, Cheatham, Humphreys, and Hickman County, and he joins us on the Matt Murphy Hotline this afternoon. Senator, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon, Matt. Pleasure to be with you today.
I've not been able to confirm that this story is real. I've gone on to FlightAware trying to get to the bottom of it because I think it would be concerning for all Tennesseans if this were, in fact, the case as described by the text of the tweet. Are you aware of the tweet, and have you been able to do any research on it, Kerry?
I'm aware of the tweet, and I haven't seen any evidence whatsoever that it's anything but internet, gossip or rumor. You can do a flight tracker, and you can see that there's very limited flights from LaGuardia into Memphis, so I don't know. I did a Google search last night just to see if there were any pictures or follow-up news story. I couldn't find anything.
I couldn't either, which is concerning because I don't want to base conversation on something that popped up on the internet and that some news or outlets or websites ran with. At the same time, it demonstrates an underlying concern that many Tennesseans have about the issue of immigration. And there has been a suggestion that you, Senator, and some of your fellow members of the General Assembly have not done everything the state of Tennessee could have done in order to tackle this issue from a state perspective. I'm sure you've heard this. How do you respond to it?
Yeah. Well, there's a short answer and a long answer. And the short answer is no, and that's ridiculous. And someone who would make that accusation doesn't understand the way the law works. Let me ask you something, Matt. Is it illegal to kill somebody?
Of course.
Of course. And yet we still have murders all the time. Is it illegal to speed? Of course. And yet people speed all the time. I mean, just because you pass a law doesn't mean that you change behavior. But let's think about this one for a moment. Let's say that plane did actually land in Memphis, and let's say that there were 15, 25, 50, 100, whatever the number is, quote unquote, illegal aliens on that flight. So is there anything that we could have done passing a law that would have stopped that? Well, the law in question goes all the way back to 2007, 2008, where you would find somebody who was guilty of transporting a quote unquote illegal alien. And that's a problem in and of itself. I'll come back to it. $1,000. And oh, by the way, we're going to exempt out bus drivers, pilots, people like that. They're just working for a living. And more problematic. We're going to create this religious exemption for the NGOs that have been so guilty of resettling people. So that's been on the books since 2008. No one has ever been charged under that. So this past year, there was this idea that we'd pass a law that would do basically three things. Number one is we would increase the fine from $1,000 to $5,000. Number two, we would eliminate the common carrier exemption. And number three, we would eliminate the religious exemption. Well, out of those three things, the third one is probably the only one that would have any, consequence whatsoever. But here is the larger problem. The larger problem is, what do you mean when you say illegal alien? Because I think you and I know what we're talking about, but the problem is that term is not defined legally in Tennessee code. It's not even defined in federal code. And so if you end up passing a law, which we already did, admittedly, and you use a term that ultimately gets tested in court, do you really want a crazy liberal judge defining that term for us? So this bill came to the Judiciary Committee, and we basically kind of sent it back to the drawing board because it's not the job. And I know the Judiciary Committee in the Senate gets thrown under the bus a lot, but it's not the Senate Judiciary's job to fix a bill that has problems. You say to the sponsor, hey, you know what? Here are the problems that we see with the bill. Could you fix them and could you bring it back? Because it's the sponsor's job to amend the bill, not the committee on the fly when you got 100 bills on the calendar.
Not to interrupt you, but I mean, we see amendments happen in committee all the time, don't we?
All the time, and more so in the House and the Senate. And so the thing is, in theory, an amendment that's done in committee would be something that would not be substantive in nature. But you also have to think about the timing of session. If you wait until the last calendar of the Judiciary Committee, because we're in there January, February, March, April, if you wait until the end of April to run a bill, there's no opportunity to go back to your office and work on it and come back. And so we've got 100 some bills on the calendar, and if it's not ready for prime time, and this is some inside baseball that a lot of people don't know. If you wait until the last calendar to run a bill, you're trying to do one of two things. Number one, you either don't care about it, and this is your way of saying to your House sponsor or constituent, well, I ran the bill, and it didn't work out. Or you're trying to do a cram down. You're trying to push it as it is without any.
Wait, so you're suggesting that Joey Hensley doesn't care about 2802?
What I'm saying is.
Well, you just said it. You just said it.
I am saying that my guess would be that this bill probably wasn't that important to Joey. I didn't ask him directly, and he's a dear friend. But we signaled to him.
I mean, let's talk about you. Why wasn't it? I mean, because look, Kerry, I don't know.
I don't. You have to fix that.
I don't know you, right? Well, then how is any law on the books regarding illegal alien activity in the state of Tennessee? How is it enforceable? How are any of these laws enforceable on the books?
Well, first of all, you have to back up and say we can't preempt federal code, and federal code is pretty explicit when it comes to this topic. The problem is it's not being enforced federally. There's plenty of code on, in what we call USC versus, Tennessee code, TCA, but it's not being enforced. And so what we can't do from a Tennessee standpoint is we can supplement federal code, but we can't overwrite federal code. So in this particular case, the bill is not a bad idea at all.
Wait a minute. The way that the states challenge the authority of the federal government to make certain definitions along these lines is to challenge them in court.
Yeah, you can, but here's the question.
Then why aren't we? Is illegal? Let's start over. Is illegal alien? Sure. Are illegal aliens a problem in the state of Tennessee?
Absolutely.
Is the federal government? Asked and answered. Is the federal government doing as much as it should do to protect Tennessee citizens from illegal alien activity?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so do you believe that the General Assembly can do more as a state to protect Tennesseans from illegal alien activity that might be criminal in nature?
Absolutely.
Tell me what.
So take this bill, for example. You could have fixed this bill and you could have passed this bill And then you could ask people, I mean, granted, in a local jurisdiction, you may have a DA that doesn't enforce it. But the key is the reason, this is one of the hardest things to explain, Matt, is when you're in favor of something ideologically or principally, but you look at the bill and the language of the bill and you see that it's got problems with the language or it's got unintended consequence, whatever the case might be, and you realize if I vote for this bill, I'm going to create another problem or I'm not going to solve the problem or whatever the case might be. And so you can come along with a bill like this and you've got to define the term illegal alien, because to one person that might mean somebody who
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure. No, you're fine.
Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you define illegal alien?
Because he waited until...
No. Why didn't you, sir? You've said that it's a problem. You said that Tennessee citizens are in more danger because of illegal alien activity. You said the federal government's not doing everything that it can. Why did you not take it up for yourself as a senator to do your job and define illegal alien so that we could move forward protecting Tennessee citizens?
Because I was doing my job with a bunch of other bills that we're voting on dealing with. That's Joey's
So it wasn't. So you're saying that this bill was not a priority for you?
No, what I'm saying is that it is a very complicated topic, and Joey needed to fix that, not us. When you come to the Judiciary Committee, you're not coming with a work in progress for us to sit here and sort out and work out.
So are you willing to say the same thing to, family members who have seen loved ones killed at the hands of illegal aliens in the state of Tennessee? Are you going to say that to them when they come to you and ask you why didn't you do anything?
Well, first of all, that's already illegal activity, and they're already here illegally. The question is passing a bill that fines somebody $5,000 going to change that? How is that going to stop a plane on the tarmac in Memphis from being unloaded?
You create a dynamic by which you force the federal government to defend their indefensible policies with regard to illegal immigration.
Let me ask you a question. What about Joey's bill would have stopped a plane from landing in Memphis and 10, 15, 100 people unloading, disembark? The bill had nothing to do with them. It had to do with fining a pilot. That's it.
No, it had to do with finding a business.
Oh, right. Well,
it seems to me that the genesis of this, or maybe that there are some in the General Assembly that are hesitant to go after illegal alien activity because so many in the Chamber of Commerce wing of the Republican Party don't want that to happen because they benefit from the low ball salaries that they can pay illegal alien labor in the state of Tennessee. And that's what I think.
Are you aware that we just completely undid the Chamber of Commerce's 2022 law regarding that very topic? Do you know that we undid that this past session?
Are you aware that there are many individuals that own businesses that benefit from illegal alien labor in the state?
Absolutely there are. And we undid, the Chamber of Commerce had, along with the National Federation of Independent Business, was pushing licensure, we call it occupational licensure, the federal code calls it commercial licensure, for people. And, the whole premise was all these, poor DACA kids that, got drugged across the border by the parents, no fault of their own. They need to be able to have these, occupational licenses. Well, the problem is when you talk about DACA, you're not just talking about, kids that got drugged across the border by the parents. You're talking about all these people, for example, that Biden is paroling into the United States every month, given a work authorization, given a phone, given some cash, and telling them we're going to defer any deportation action for the next couple of years. Hold
on. Do you think, I just want to get back to this for a second. So on 2802, you're saying the sole reason that you voted against it in Judy is because it did not define the term illegal alien?
It did not define the term illegal alien, and it didn't carve out people like school bus drivers who are doing their job.
So you wanted
if you had a school bus driver in Robertson County, Tennessee, chairman of the Republican Party in Robertson County, Tennessee is a school bus driver, it would have fined him $5,000 a kid for knowingly transport a kid that he knows is a DACA kid, to the thing. Now, see, this is the confusion of all this, Matt, because the question is, what's your definition of illegal alien? Is DACA illegal alien? What if somebody has a work authorization? Is that illegal alien? They don't have citizenship. So are you talking about citizenship, or are you talking about the right to be here?
I mean, hold on, Kerry, I didn't intend this conversation to go this way, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but are you sitting here on the radio today telling me that you're having a difficult time understanding what an illegal alien is?
I'm telling you, the words matter, and when you get into
I'm telling you that you sound like the type of politician that doesn't need to be serving the people of the state.
No.
I mean, do you know what we're talking about when we're talking about an illegal alien? Yes or no, man?
Yeah, I know what we're talking about.
Then why? Then you had the opportunity in judiciary to figure it out. You had the opportunity to protect the citizens of this state and the people that are legally here, and you chose not to by playing word games so that you could just pass on this bill.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry you see it that way, and I'm sorry you don't understand the topic.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Let me finish. You keep interrupting me every time I say something.
Kerry,
I'm trying to give you an explanation that I think your listeners would understand.
You said I didn't understand. You said I didn't understand it. I asked you.
No, don't let me finish.
Kerry, I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to get out of the way.
That illegal alien is a term that has to be defined in code in order for it to be enforceable.
And you're saying that it's not. You're saying it's not defined in Tennessee code. Are you saying it's not defined?
There is no agreed upon definition of what illegal alien is unless you define it in code. Because a liberal has one view, a moderate Republican has another view, a conservative Republican has another view. You have to have the same definition for every single person. Joey Hensley knew this. He could have put the definition in Tennessee code.
You could have put the definition in. Sir,
no,
you could have done. Yes, you could.
You have not finished the Judiciary Committee when you've got 100 bills on the calendar and you're trying to get them through.
Look,
and they didn't end up bringing this bill in January, in February, in March, or in April when it could have been worked on.
People are being impacted today.
The very last. Then why did he not come in January and work on the bill?
You keep blaming Joey. I'm blaming you. Why did you not amend the bill? You had the opportunity to do it in June if you wanted to.
It's not my bill because I was busy passing the law that undid the Chamber of Commerce bill in 2022.
So you're saying illegal aliens in the state of Tennessee.
No. I did something of consequence. Joey Hensley's bill wasn't going to change anything. It wasn't going to stop a plane from landing in Memphis, Tennessee. But what we did was we passed a law that said you can't give an occupational license to somebody who is here illegally. We were spending our time working on some serious things that make a difference, and his bill wasn't going to stop that plane from landing in Memphis, and it wasn't going to stop anyone from getting off that plane, whether on a plane, whether on a train, whether in an automobile. It wasn't going to change a single thing.
Do you support?
And what we did is we were working on a bill that completely undid what the Chamber of Commerce spent hundreds, if not millions of dollars to pass a couple of years ago, not just in the state of Tennessee, but I believe 28 other states, and we completely undid that. So we're not magnetizing the state of Tennessee for people who would come here illegally to work and try and get some kind of occupational licensure. There's a whole lot of things that we're working on, and this is one singular thing of which the benefit would have been extremely dubious that everybody seems to be focused on, and yet it wasn't going to stop that plane from landing in Memphis, Tennessee, period.
Do you support it being illegal, as it currently is, the prohibition for any person to transport an illegal alien into the state?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it
how is that? Excuse me. Follow-up question. How is that law currently in your understanding constitutional? Does it meet constitutionally?
The law is constitutional.
As it's currently written. Okay, all right. So wait a minute. No, excuse me. Let me follow up because this is very important.
Hey, life doesn't have
allow me to follow up. This is very important, Kerry. So you support the prohibition of any person from transporting an illegal alien into the state. You just said you do.
Yes.
How is that bill legal or lawful if it doesn't define illegal aliens, which you said it doesn't?
It's not that it's unconstitutional or anything like that. It's that you put yourself in a position where you allow a
Have we ever been sued because of the current law? Have we been sued because of the current law?
We have not been, to my knowledge.
But you're suggesting that we will. Oh, okay. But we will. But we will be. We haven't been sued because of the current law. This new bill would remove the common carrier portion of the bill. It would, and
I don't think it's the common carrier. I think it's the NGOs. I think it's the Catholic charities of the world that would probably sue.
But so you're saying the current law and the current law defines illegal aliens perfectly acceptably to you.
No, the current law does not define.
But you said you support the current law.
What I'm saying is I support the fact that people should not be able to knowingly transport.
You said you support
aliens.
the current law.
Okay. What I said was you asked me if I support the fact that you can't legally transport someone who's here illegally. I agree with that, but the existing law is not well done.
Mm-hmm. So, but you support the existing law.
No, what I said a moment ago.
You just said you did.
Okay. Matt, first of all, life is not black and white, and life is not a bunch of yes and no answers. Okay? Sometimes you've got to explain something so somebody understands the underlying reason, and I have tried to do that. What I've tried to explain to you is this. I've tried to explain that we have a law in the books since 2008 that already makes this activity illegally. That law has never been used. Second of all, I've tried to explain that for some reason back in 2008, they did not define the term illegal alien. To one person, that means citizenship. To another person, that means they don't have work authorization. To another person, that means they've overstayed a visa or any number of things. You've got a whole bunch of different buckets of people who don't have United States citizenship who are here. And some are allowed to be here because they're a refugee, and some are not because they crossed the border. So when you and I talk about illegal alien, generally speaking, we're talking about people who crossed the border and did it illegally, but that term is not defined in law. And so what I'm saying is it is incumbent on the sponsor of a bill to make sure that the language in his bill or her bill is defined in code so we don't leave it in the hands of some crazy liberal judge to come along and say, well, it's only going to be this one, little person who has not been paroled. For example, Biden is paroling all of these people in the United States, but do they meet your definition of illegal alien? They ought to. What happens if a liberal judge comes along and says, well, that's not an illegal alien? Because Biden paroling is the federal term. Biden has paroled these people into the United States who've crossed the border. He's given them work authorization, and he's given them deferred action. Is that an illegal alien or not? Well, in my book, it is. But what if a liberal judge comes along and says, no, it's not? Well, let's just solve the problem up front by getting the language right. This is one of the most complicated areas of law of which I'm aware. If you talk to people like John Harris of the Tennessee Firearms Association, I just spoke to them Tuesday night, and we were talking about this very thing and about how complicated this area of law is. And these terms are terms that have to be very, very clearly defined. Otherwise, you have a misapplication or an ignorance of the law that's not being used. The people in my district elected me to help get these words right. And you're sitting here saying it's my responsibility to fix Joey's bill. And what I'm saying is, hey, I'm working on my own bill. I don't have time to fix his bill. And oh, by the way, one of the bills that I was working on has far greater impact on illegal immigration than the bill that he was working on. And he may disagree with that, and that's fine. He's a dear friend. But I think the bill that I was spending my time working on that apparently a lot of people at some of these websites don't understand because none of them have talked about it is one of the most consequential bills that we have done in the General Assembly over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years with respect to illegal immigration. And so to sit here and say that, I didn't fix his bill, I got my own bills to work on. It's his job to fix it.
Just want to make sure you get the last word here, Kerry. You're angry at me for engaging in a robust debate,
Matt,
but
listen,
just want to make sure you get the last word.
Okay. You're right. You and I have never met before. I don't know who you are. I get frustrated on this situation because
I don't blame you.
When I got elected, in the Tea Party movement, and I had no understanding of the way a lot of this stuff works, the nuances of things and how stuff gets done. Throughout the years, I have, stayed very true to my conservative principles. And I said before, one of the hardest things to explain sometimes when you agree with something principally, that you look at the language and you go, man, I don't want to give that to a liberal judge. I don't want to hand that over to a liberal judge.
But you could have fixed it.
I believe it was beyond my ability in that period of time to verbally offer the amendment that could have fixed it.
You chose not to fix it. I mean,
no. Well,
I know you talk like you talk like.
Sometimes you have to know. Sometimes you have to know your limitations.
Well, I mean, you could have helped. You could have helped to fix it and pass it, but instead you killed it. That's okay. It's fine. That's what you did. That's fine.
There is no immigration attorney on the Senate Judiciary Committee. There's no one who was going to just sit here and say, here is a term of art that we can use to redefine this bill and amend this bill on the fly.
I don't know.
Do it that way. And
maybe look at you're saying the 08 statute did not define. Are you saying the 08 statute did not define any of the terms?
No, it didn't define it.
Right, because most of your constituents don't need a lawyer to tell them what it means to be illegal.
I would agree that you and I would agree on what an illegal alien is.
Mm-hmm.
But to your friends on the left, they're going to have a different definition. To the people you go to church with, they're going to have a different definition. You're going to find different definitions wherever you go as to what is, quote unquote, an illegal alien. And so you go to TCA and you don't find the definition there. You go to federal code and you don't find the definition there. And so you either use a term that is defined or you define the term. And it is not as easy as it sounds, because even though you and I think we are, and part of the problem with my understanding of this topic, for example, in working on this bill this past year, I discovered that the knowledge that I had was very small compared to.
Do we need to repeal based on the possibility of a liberal judge coming in here and misdefining illegal aliens? Do we need to repeal the 08 bill and do something different there?
I don't know that it needs to be repealed, but I think it needs to be
based on your logic. It does, right?
But if you could fix it.
I mean, but based on your logic, couldn't a liberal judge do the same thing with the 08 legislation that you're claiming that they would have done with this?
If it was challenged in court, but frankly, it's so.
But it hasn't been.
No, but that's right.
But you're saying this one would have been because you just knew that it would have been.
Because the coverage that was provided in 2008 law, and what I was told, I wasn't there in 2008, but what I was told was the NGO exemption was amended into the bill based on whatever kind of wheeling and dealing took place when that bill was discussed. So that
we got 30 seconds, but it's yours.
Well, that's carving out of the Catholic charities. You look at the people who are your big offenders, and they got carved out of it, and they need to be taken out of it. There's no question about it. The bill needs to come back. It needs to come back with a definition. It needs to come back with what you're going to do with school bus drivers and things like that.
Will you commit to sponsoring the bill?
I've already said repeatedly I will happily work on this bill.
Okay, well, great.
But it just needed more work than what we could do at that present time. And Matt, I am not at all offended that you're asking tough questions. That's the way.
I know it got very heated, and
we're good.
I apologize to the audience. Kerry, thank you.
Please don't. You're looking out for your listeners, and you're doing the right thing.
That is Senator Kerry Roberts. A lot of strong reaction to not only the conversation, but the style of conversation. We'll get to that in a moment.